Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and I have something of a little bit of a neat book haul, at least as far as the standards of my channel go, anyways. And as you can probably tell from the title, they're all books from the New York Review of Books Classics lineup. So normally this would not be something I would do, but over the last couple months I've been reading quite a bit. Well, I say quite a bit. I've been reading some works of classic fiction and really enjoying it. I'll leave a link to the video of like the 5 that I wanted to finish before the end of the year, and I'm on pace to do that. I got like 6 more days or 7 more days. And I'm on the last one, so I think we'll be able to do it. And I was able to come across these, a bunch of used ones, so I picked out a selection of them kind of by chance. And several people have recommended them to me because I guess they've been sort of pitched to me as like kind of hidden gems that are quirky, usually works of like translation and that kind of thing, and just a little bit more off the beaten path. I don't know, as far as like kind of classics are concerned and stuff. So it sounded pretty interesting. So I was like, yeah, what the heck? Let's just go ahead and get some. So I know there's a few of them that are super, super popular, such as, what's his name? Williams' Stoner, for example. I'll leave a link up there for that one. I know that one's like crazy, crazy popular. And some Gaddis books and stuff like that. But like I said, I just picked out some that I thought looked kind of interesting, at least like for what I enjoy. And let's just go ahead and get started. So first up, we got Memories from Moscow to the Black Sea by Teffy. And this is translated out of the Russian. I'm going to include all the translators. I think they're all translated out of some language or other. Oh gosh, this has 4 different translators, so I have no idea how that's going to work. We got Robert and Elizabeth Chandler, Anne-Marie Jackson, and Irina Steinberg. For what I understand about this, and after reading the synopsis and that kind of thing, Teffy was a journalist in Moscow, and during the Russian Revolution, which would have been and I can't remember if it started end of 1917 or 1918 anyways. Apparently she traveled between Russia and Kiev to do some speaking engagements and some journalism and that kind of thing. But eventually she had, due to the revolution and everything, she sort of had to like flee the area, down through the Black Sea to Constantinople, then over to France and all kinds of stuff. So she became like a Russian exile in Paris, I think, for the majority of her life. And it just sounded like a really interesting story, obviously, with like, you know, current affairs and everything. I feel like this would kind of tie in pretty well, considering it's almost exactly like 100 years before and stuff. I don't know, it just sounded, like I said, just like kind of a neat take, especially considering it's like mostly based on like her, I guess, like I said, kind of like memoirs of this journey and like kind of journalizing it as she went along. So don't really know a whole lot to expect. I don't know if it's gonna be more like on the political side of things or more just kind of like the personal account of like her kind of travels and like fleeing different areas and that kind of thing, but we shall see. And I have read one of these 6 books already. I gotta try to like make it sound like the one that I have read that I haven't yet. So let me, if you have a guess, leave it down below, or if you read any of these, let me know as well. Next up is The Pilgrim Hawk: A Love Story by Glenway Westcott. I don't know. This one actually might be. Yeah, I think this one is in English. But the author lived in France for a long time. And this actually is based on an area. I can't remember if it was southern France or not. But I think out of all the different, I guess, major like kind of like national literatures, you know, there's like the English canon, Russian literature, French and German, all that kind of stuff. I think so far, just from like my research and then the few things that I have read so far, like French literature, I think is definitely the one I'm like kind of vaguely gravitating towards, even though I know this is like an English one. But anyways, this one is kind of a goofy, I guess it's, from what I understand, there's kind of a little hideaway or like kind of cottage retreat, and this man that's the narrator is there, and apparently like an Irish couple goes there as well. And like I said, this is in France somewhere, and it's kind of like his just kind of like musings on like this like absolutely failed like relationship or something like that. And apparently the woman has like a trained hawk or something that lives like literally like on her like most of the time or something like that. I didn't quite know what to make of it after like reading the synopsis, but I thought it was just so quirky. For like 120 pages or something, not even 108 pages. And actually, hold on, let me go grab. I have a quote from after I was like looking up, like what should I read this or not? So the quote I found that was online from kind of not necessarily a review. I think the person was like teaching lectures on like different like works of literature and stuff. But someone described it as it's a love, obsession, hate, triangle, jealousy story, with the narrator not being part of it, just being like an observer. So yeah, I don't know. It just sounded really. I don't know, it just sounded really goofy as far as like a love story kind of goes, because I have a feeling it's not really a love story in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know, it seemed goofy, the artwork's quirky. I don't know, for whatever reason I was drawn to it. I've heard like that one, I think vaguely like I've heard of like since like learning about like the New York Review books and that kind of thing, but this one definitely seems much more up my alley for that kind of stuff. Is Nature Stories by Jules Renard. This is translated by Douglas Parme, and illustrated by Pierre Bonnard. So I have heard of this one before, and what this is kind of a work of like a collection of I think like 100 vignettes, maybe not 100, several dozen anyway. They're probably close to 100, maybe like 60 or 70 different vignettes of kind of Jules like just kind of examinations of like natural life, and they're usually like pretty witty. I've seen a couple of them quoted in some of like my nature books and that kind of thing. Some are decently long, like a couple pages. Some a lot of them are like one page, but then there's a few here that are literally like a couple sentences or and stuff like that. But all kinds of different things. Some are a little bit more serious than others. Like I said, I just love nature stuff, so you know, little nature vignettes, and each one being like specific to like a plant or animal or whatever. I think I'll just really enjoy it, and you'll definitely be able to just like blast through it, but also kind of like contemplate on like the few that like resonate with you. So like I said, I'm looking forward to reading the entire thing. Next up, we have Our Philosopher by Gert Hoffman. It looks like it's introduced by his brother or his son, Michael Hoffman there. And let's see, it is translated by Eric Mace Tesler. And for what I understand, this is a book that's based on 1930 or late 1930s Germany. So Germany between the wars. But it's like described through, I guess, the lens of like a young boy. And we have a philosopher or professor or something like that. And it's kind of, I guess, the description of what this philosopher encounters due to his background. Because I think he's like Jewish or so. It doesn't like explicitly say, but you kind of read between the lines and you figure out kind of what's going on there. And obviously, like for like, I think I want to say, it just says 1930s, but I want to say, so I think I looked it up when I saw this one. It was like late 1930s, rural Germany. So I'm getting the vibe that it's probably not great to be a Jewish professor in like 1937, 1938, something like that. But like I said, I guess the big selling point of this one is it's like I said, it's told through the lens of Hans. It doesn't say how old he is, just that he's like a young boy. So I think obviously this one's gonna be kind of more in my vibe of like kind of gloom and doom, depressing reads and that kind of thing. I have like a shelf I'm starting to make like for that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess there's not much else to say about it other than that. But this one's not very long either. This one's about 143 pages, so not too bad either. Yeah, Herr Weichenfeld, a renowned thinker, distinguished professor who has, after sudden dismissal from university, has retired to live quietly in a country town in the east of Germany. And our narrator is Hans, a clever and inquisitive boy. So, yeah, like I said, that one's definitely going to be in kind of the, the despair of like human condition kind of stuff going on. Next up, we have The Summer Book by Tove Jansson. I don't know if it's Jansson or Jansson. I want to say that's like Swedish or something, if I remember off the top of my head. Let's see, translated from the Swedish by Thomas Teal. And I have heard of this one as well from some of my other like nature reads. And what it is, it's a collection of like little short essays that Tove had, I guess, recollects from her childhood, when she spent time on an island in, I want to say it's like either the Baltic Sea or somewhere around Finland or Sweden, somewhere around there, with her like much older grandmother. It's kind of like the dichotomy of like, you know, the young and the elderly, and how they like kind of perceive things like kind of similarly but also differently. I guess, in regards to like the natural world, but also like cultural stuff as well. So it just sounds, like I said, sounds really up my alley as far as like using nature to kind of bond and to understand the world and everything like that. And it's kind of similar to this one in the sense that it's like a young kid that's kind of like telling the story, as well, and has like kind of like that young child's like perspective on the world and everything like that. Does it say? Oh, I was just seeing if it said like how old she was. Nah. Alright. But anyways, like I said, I feel like that was like another good like nature pickup. I guess I didn't realize how many of the like NYRB like classics were like kind of nature-y, or at least there was like at least enough of them for me to find a couple there. So yeah. This one, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know the guy. I've never heard of the author. But it's The Open Road by Jean Giono, introduced by Jacques Lagal. And this one is translated out of the French by Paul Eprile. Eprile. It doesn't have the accent aigu, so I don't know if it's Eprile or just Eprile. Anyways, like I said, I never heard anything of it, but the cover like really just struck me. Just really like the Jack of Hearts there. I thought it was really cool. Had a cool title, so I picked it up. And the only thing, I purposely been not reading anything online about it, so don't spoil anything in the comments below if you have read it. But like I said, I've been sort of being drawn to like kind of the French literature canon, I think. You know, I don't know if this is like, you know, a French classic per se, but it takes place in Provence in southern France. So like I said, all I've read is the little synopsis here, and that's what made me pick it up, so I'll read the synopsis for you as well. So, the south of France, 1950, a solitary vagabond walks through the villages, towns, valleys, and foothills of the region between northern Provence and the Alps. He picks up work along the way and spends the winter as a custodian of a walnut oil mill. He also picks up a problematic companion, a card sharp and con man whom he calls the Artist. The action moves from place to place and episode to episode in truly picaresque fashion. Everything is told in the first person present tense by the vagabond narrator, who goes unnamed. He himself is a curious combination of qualities: poetic, resentful, cynical, compassionate, flirtatious, and self-absorbed. While The Open Road can be read as loosely strung entertainment interspersed with caustic reflections, it can also be interpreted as a projection of the relationship of author, art, and audience, but it is ultimately an exploration of the tensions and boundaries between affection and commitment, and of the competing needs for solitude, independence, and human bonds. So I just thought that sounded really interesting. I don't know, it's just the whole package sold me, basically. Like I said, the title, the cover, and the synopsis. I feel like, you know, if you get all three of those things together, I feel like the publisher and the artist and whoever writes the reviews, everyone kind of did their job there. And I'm like, oh, they earned, granted, they didn't even really earn a sale because these are all like used books, but still, you get the idea there. Anyways, like I said, these are the 6 books that I picked up for the NYRB Classics lineup. I'm really excited to start giving them a shot to kind of go along with like my like kind of classic fiction and everything like that that I've been reading. And I don't know, like I said, this was like a new phase for me. I'm just gonna like, you know, ride it while I can, because maybe I'll burn out of fiction at some point, but hopefully not too soon. But like I said, if you've read any of these, or if you have any recommendations from the NYRB Classics lineup, leave some comments down below. And always remember, whether you're reading these kinds of books or not, read victoriously.